Good afternoon, everybody. And again, thank you very much for taking the time and attending our webinar. And today we're going to discuss data silos and how you can go about fixing those issues for your organization, and why is a single source of truth essential for associations and membership-based organizations. So here with us today, of course, it's me, Ray Pico. I'm the account executive for Zentso based here in Melbourne. And with me is also Jyoti, our co-founder and CRO, and also Andrew Newnham, our head of consulting here in the Asia Pacific region as well. So just on the next slide here, Jyoti.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. You're going to talk this one through?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm happy to talk one through as well. Thank you. So for those who have not heard of Zentso before, or those who doesn't know us, Zentso, we have actually been in the industry for about 3 decades now. We have 40 team members across the globe, and we are an authorized IMS implementer and IMS partner as well. Next, please. Yep, and just before anything else, down the bottom of the slides are some of our customers as well. We have done 150 implementations already across Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and USA too. So the main focus of the organization of Zentso is really to help associations like yourselves reduce transformation risk and align your technology with the goal of your organizations as well. Yeah, so for today's webinar, here is a quick snapshot of our agenda. We're going to go through data silos, how they're quietly undermining your member experience, what is true single source of truth looks like for you, and then the 3 core components of every association, how to extend your system without spending so much on that, and what to look for when evaluating a new AMS system or any integration tools.
Great. So thanks, Ray. I want to kick things off by just looking at what data silos are and how they arise. So the first question that I have around data silos, and please just put this in the chat, have a think about how many different tools does your team use, and how many different tools do they have to log into on a regular basis. So just think about that. Please put it in the chat if you can. But too many is what Kevin's saying, which is true. So if you look at the average association, you've probably got an association management system, an AMS, a membership database. You've possibly got a separate events platform. It might be in your AMS. You've got an email marketing system. You've got a finance package. You may have a learning management system as well. You may have a separate content management system. So these are just some of the basic ones before we've even gone into into all the other plethora of apps that are out there. People are coming to associations sort of every day with new apps, with new functionality, new supposed best practice or best of breed tools that they want to use. You have staff churn. Staff are coming in from other organizations, and they bring, oh, I've used this tool in my past, I want to use this tool here. And the big question here is, where is the data from all these apps held? So data silos, whether we like it or not, are going to get created because organizations grow organically. You keep adding different platforms to do different things. You do an events platform because your AMS didn't do events well enough. You added an email marketing tool because you needed more sophisticated campaigns and tracking. Um, each decision that you make on these tools makes sense at the time, but it's very difficult to step back and see the big picture because, although you've made all these sensible decisions, when you look at your data picture, none of these systems are talking properly to each other. And the natural way in which data goes is to spread your data all over the web. And yeah, that literally means today all over the globe, because um, data is really stored in so many different countries. If we put on top of this AI and where your AI data is being processed, and then analytics data, like, for example, Google Analytics or mobile analytics, and where those bits of data are stored, it really boils down to a complex web of data. So what does that mean for your organization? First of all, the biggest challenge we face is member experience. As how do we create a wonderful experience for our members? If you've got all these data silos, it can make your members question whether you actually know them, because they might fill out their dietary requirements every single time they register for an event, and the data is not carried through from a central data repository. Or they get an email promoting an event that they've already attended because your email platform doesn't know what the event platform knows. It may also mean that you can't offer personalized experience, like, for example, a follow-up when someone does register for an event, or they call into your office with a question and the staff member on the phone is working from a different record to the one in the AMS. So the answer is inconsistent or wrong, or they have to transfer them to another department in order to resolve the call. And then when they go to another department, the other department asks for all the information over again. So all of this puts a lot of pressure on your team, your membership team, when ideally all of these actions could be completed by members on their own member profile, and that could go to update a single contact record or a single member record. And your staff should only have to go to one place to find a member's data rather than hunting around multiple systems to get a picture. So that's what data silos feel like from a member side, an organization that doesn't quite know who they are. And for members who've been with you for 5, 10, 15, even 20 years, that's a problem. That leads to an erosion of trust. And erosion of trust leads to figures in member attrition. So where we want to retain members, it's absolutely vital that those members feel they have a relationship with us. They feel that we know them. So let's look a little bit broader to the hidden costs of data silos to your team and your organization, because we want to make sure you're looking at this from every angle, not just the member experience. So staff frustration is real and it's significant. If your team is spending every week reconciling data between systems, exporting from one, importing to another, checking which figure between systems is correct, that's time they're not spending on members. It's time they're not spending on campaigns. It's time they're not spending on strategically making your membership offering more valuable. So beyond the time and cost, there's also a confidence cost, right? When your reporting team isn't sure whether the membership number in the AMS matches the one in the spreadsheet, it undermines trust in your own data. So if your executives don't have trust in the data that's coming out, how can they have trust in the decisions that they need to make to steer the organization? There's also the issue of missed revenue. It's probably one of the most underappreciated impacts here. But when your systems don't talk to each other, you lose visibility of members' behaviors. So you don't know that a member visited your CPD page 3 times this month, but then didn't register for a CPD event. And that's a lead that you never were able to follow up because you didn't have the data. So you don't know which members are quietly disengaging until they don't renew. And this is the thing: is members don't tend to suddenly not renew. They tend to be more and more and more disengaged until they get to a point where they slowly and silently drift away by not renewing. So if you don't have your data, um, you don't know this thing about members, whether they're at risk of not renewing, and your retention is at risk. Um, of course, invoicing can also be difficult. If you have to invoice based on data across multiple systems, renewal becomes a nightmare. There are Compliance and Privacy Act risks. And I always need to flag this for Australian associations specifically, because the Privacy Act reforms have put data governance front and center. And if a member asks you to update their contact preferences or requests access to their data or asks to be completely removed from the system, how do you do that across multiple systems? How do you create a report of all someone's member data without causing a huge amount of staff time and overhead in order to get that data? So if you have fragmented data, the answer is that you have a compliance risk. And then there's obviously the retention risk, which I alluded to earlier. The principle that members don't leave dramatically, they drift away. So identifying based on your data who is not engaged is much, much easier and better when you're looking at one data set. When you're looking at multiple data sets and trying to work out engagement over multiple data sets, you're always on the back foot, and your ability to be agile, to act to counter member attrition risks is severely hindered. Okay. All right. Andrew, do you want to talk about the concept of a single source of truth here?
Sure, Jyoti, happy to. A true single source of truth means that there is one authoritative record for each member. It brings all interactions with your members together into one database. It's often described as having a 360-degree view of your membership base. Everything your AMS knows about that person, their membership stats, their events history, their communication preferences, their engagement score, is current, accurate, and easily accessible. When your email platform sends a message, it's reading from that record. When your events platform processes a registration, it writes back to that record. When your finance system processes a renewal, it updates that record in real time or as close to real time as possible. Staff see the same data regardless of which tool they're in, and members experience consistency at every touch point. What it isn't is also important. As much as we recommend having an AMS and sticking to out-of-the-box functionality as much as you can, this isn't always feasible. The goal isn't just one tool. It's one version of the truth that all your tools can access. It's also not a one-time data migration project. We've seen organizations do huge data cleanups, merge everything into one system, and 6 months later, they're back to the same fragmentation because their underlying integrations weren't put in place. And it's not just large associations. I know that for lean teams, this can feel like a big organizational problem. It isn't. In fact, small teams arguably benefit more because every hour saved on data reconciliation is felt even more acutely when they don't have spare capacity.
Yeah, I'd just like to maybe just chip in there with a small example. In the UK, we were working with a large charity, Rethink Mental Illness, and they understood this issue and the challenge of creating a single source of truth. And they implemented a new AMS, and the team there were very much on board with creating the single source of truth, in that they wanted to ensure that executive reports were accurate, and they achieved that by implementing the new AMS with us. However, very often this is based on the people more than the systems, because the people in the organization need to be educated about what we're telling you now, because it needs to be a constant effort and a constant endeavor to keep all the data in a single source of truth. Because if you let up on that effort, what will happen is the natural entropy of the system will create a chaotic data set for you. So it needs a constant effort. And what we saw with Rethink is that they had staff changes, and new staff came in at the top level, and they didn't understand this issue. And because for political reasons in the organization and trying to appease different departments, they allowed different departments to use the tools that they wanted to use that didn't communicate centrally with their AMS, and they lost their single source of truth very quickly. It took about 6 months, and suddenly they had lost that. So it happens very easily, and it happens naturally if you don't put consistent effort to keep that concept of a single source of truth. And it's important to educate people in the organization about the value of this. Sorry, Andrew, I just wanted to interject there with that.
Yeah. I actually have a similar situation from the other end, where I was working with an organization that wasn't doing this, and each of the different state coordinators had their own Excel sheet that they used for their single source of truth. So when someone left and somebody else joined, they handed the Excel sheet to them and said, "This is your members," which works great as long as that piece of the Excel sheet goes across. But then what happens when a member leaves or loses it? You've lost all your data. The database was out of date completely. So if you don't have somewhere that goes beyond just what the staff knows, then you're going to run into trouble. That's what I was getting at. Go to the next slide. So we've talked about what a single source of truth is. Now let's talk about why it actually matters in practice. What does life look like when you have one? For your members, instead of logging into 3 different portals, remembering multiple passwords, and filling out the same details every time, they have one login, one profile, one place to do everything. Pay the membership, register for an event, sign up for a CPD course, all in a single transaction. And the convenience of this acts as a retention strategy. And because you know who they are and what they're engaged with, you can stop sending everyone the same generic communications. You can tailor content based on their behavior, their interests, their stage of membership, and even guide them towards their next logical step before they've even thought about it. On the retention side, the shift is from reactive to proactive. Right now, most associations find out a member is disengaged when they don't renew. With unified data, you see the signals earlier. Fewer logins, less event attendance, lower email engagement, and you can act on them while there's still time to repair that relationship. For your staff, the change is just as significant. No more rekeying data between systems. No more waiting for someone else to run a report. No more board meetings with 2 people that have 2 different member counts, and nobody knowing which one is actually accurate. The team works from one current trusted picture, and that confidence changes the way you operate. And when you do need to connect to a specialized tool, a new events platform, for example, a payments gateway or a survey tool, the right foundation makes that seamless. So you can set up 2-way integrations that keep everything in sync without heavy customizations. So what does the architecture actually look like in practice? I like to frame it in 3 core components, and you'll need all 3 of these to work properly. Component 1 is your AMS, your single source of truth. Your AMS is the hub. It should be the system your whole team trusts above all others. It should hold the authoritative member record that everything else points back to. Every event registration, every email open, every payment, every interaction should either live in your AMS or sync back to it. Component 2 is your integration layer. And this is what most associations are missing or have done poorly. Your integration layer is a set of connectors or middleware that keeps your specialized tool in sync with your AMS automatically. Not with a weekly export, not with a member of staff copying and pasting, automatically, in real time or as close to it as you can. Tools like Cloudtoolz are designed specifically for this. They connect your AMS to third-party platforms using drag and drop workflows, so there's no code required. And unlike generic middleware like Bomai or Zapier, they're built for associations, which means they understand IMAs, they understand membership data, and they don't charge per transaction. Finally, component 3 is your analytics and insights. Here's the thing that unified data. Once you have it, you can actually use it. Engagement scoring, retention risk signals, member journey visibility, board-ready reporting that you can actually trust. Go to the next slide. Customization feels like control. It feels like you're making the tool work for you. But in practice, it usually creates more problems than it solves. Every customization adds technical debt. It means when your vendor releases an upgrade, you have to test whether the customization still works. And often it doesn't. You end up being held back on older versions of your platform because upgrading is too risky. You become dependent on the developer who wrote the custom code because no one else actually understands it. And you pay for the complexity that you didn't need. A smarter approach is to use your AMS as it was designed to be used, for what it's good at, and then connect specialized tools via an integration layer for everything else. This is what off-the-shelf tools used as intended means in practice. It means your vendor can support you. It means upgrades happen smoothly. It means anyone on your team can maintain the configuration without raising a developer ticket. And critically, it means that when a better tool comes along, you can swap it out without pulling everything apart. This isn't a compromise on capabilities. It's a smarter way of building a system that grows with your association.
Okay, so what do we do about this? You may be looking for a new AMS system. You may be looking for capabilities in your existing AMS system. And you may or may not be looking at what are the tools out there that can help me to integrate these different data sources so that I can see when a member of staff can see when they're logging into the AMS, everything about that member that they need in order to give a good user experience. So what are the questions we should be asking when we evaluate this? I've put 6 criteria together that can help in this. The first thing we should look at with our tools and with our database is integration capability. Does it connect to the tools you already use? Does it have an open API for future flexibility? Does it sync in real time or near real time with other tools? A system that only talks to itself is a problem waiting to happen. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later because there's a concept of MPC. Is there an MPC server on the roadmap for your AMS? MPC is the way in which AIs communicate with databases, and it's really important that going forward, as AI changes our whole landscape, that we've got the ability for AIs to be able to talk to our databases, interrogate them. So we don't end up using AI to create further data silos. The second criteria is data ownership and portability. Okay, this is one I always push. Can you export your data easily? And in what format does it come out? Is it coming out in an easily readable format, SQL or Excel, CSV files? And is that data hosted in Australia? So you can get it more easily. And the Privacy Act question matters here too. If your data is in an overseas data center, there are obligations you need to understand in terms of data processing agreements. I know that I've been using Claude to interrogate some databases recently, and what I found out is that all the data processing happens in the US. So in order for that to be data compliant, I would need a data processing agreement with Anthropic, who make Claude. So there are considerations around data ownership and portability that we need to consider for integration purposes. And also, every time we're adding a new piece of functionality, a new tool to our database, we need to ask those data ownership and portability questions. In terms of no-code administration, the question is, can your staff support this without having to call a developer every time something needs to change? If the answer is no, your total cost of ownership is much higher than just the license fee suggests. Then you should look at reporting and insight. What data can you actually see? It's important that you're able to visualize member engagement, the risks of retention or attrition, your renewal rates, and can you surface these natively in one system, or do you need to build everything from scratch and pull together multiple data sources, and it takes you weeks to create a report, and by the time you've built the report, it's already out of date? So that's a big consideration. The other thing is sector fit and local support. So this is important for Australian associations. A generic CRM built for sales team, like Dynamics or Salesforce, for example, will handle your membership data, but it will not understand the nuances of, for example, CPD requirements or financial membership categories or governance structures, or the way Australian associations particularly operate. So it's important that you choose tools that fit the sector, because when something goes wrong, local support really matters. And then finally, look at the total cost of ownership. Don't just look at the license fee. Ask what's included versus what's an add-on. Ask what implementation typically costs. Ask what ongoing support costs. And then ask what happens when you upgrade one of your systems or one of the other systems. These questions will tell you a lot about whether a vendor is a good fit in terms of selecting those tools. So I wanted to break this down into like a practical action plan for you, so that you can understand what to do next. So there's 4 simple steps. Step 1, I would say audit your systems. Sit down and list every tool that your team uses. And for each one, ask, does the data in this tool make it back into our AMS? If the answer is no, or maybe, but it does it manually, there's a gap there. So list where the gaps in your data and just list those data silos first off. Step 2, find your biggest pain point. Okay, talk to your staff. What do they have to do manually that feels like it should be automatic? And then maybe ask some of the members, not necessarily formally, but just listen when you're talking to them, maybe at a conference. Listen for their moments of friction. Where are they finding it difficult to interact with you? Why do I have to fill this form in again? That type of thing. So is it a data silo that's sitting behind that friction? Third step, prioritize just one integration. You don't need to solve everything at once. Pick the one integration that's going to have the biggest impact on your team's time or your member experience, and fix that one first. And once you've created the win there, then you can build momentum for the second one. There's a principle at Zentso we call Kaizen. It's a Japanese principle of continuous improvement in small increments. So just identify the biggest data silo, try and deal with that one first, and then you can go into the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And as I said earlier, this unfortunately is going to be a constant effort. It's not something you're ever going to conquer and be done with. It requires constant effort in the organization. Step 4 is then evaluate with intention. So the next time you're in the market for any tool, ask the integration question from day one. How does this connect to my AMS? Who owns the data? So these questions should be absolutely non-negotiable when you're looking at new tools. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that Zentso have built particularly for association, for associations to help to resolve this issue. So data silos aren't a new issue, but what we noticed is that there weren't enough tools to effectively manage integrations specifically for associations without resorting to either custom code or to models that when you scale them up to the volumes that we have with members, they became exorbitantly expensive. So we created a platform, and it's an integration platform and a workflow platform called Cloudtoolz. We've built a range of solutions that are ready built and integrations to help you create your single source of truth and bring your data back into your AMS. So data is automatically synced so you can have a greater understanding of your members and support their experience without having to manually upload or process data. So for example, we have solutions that manage direct debits automatically with various direct debit providers. We've got two-way email marketing integrations between various email marketing tools and CRM systems. We have an app used for managing membership from payroll and a configurable sidebar that works in Outlook for making notes and updating records and saving documents from emails. So these are just some of the pre-built apps we've built. You can see a full range by visiting our app page on our website. If you just go to the Cloudtoolz section of our website, you can see that. But Cloudtoolz is more than just a whole bunch of integrations. We call it a business process orchestration tool that automates and runs your business processes across multiple systems, because your business processes will happen across multiple systems. Someone will get an email from an email marketing system. They'll click on that. They'll go to a website. They may register for an event off the website or your event system. The payment for that might go into the AMS system, and it might flow into the finance system. And you will have to automate that or orchestrate that process across multiple systems. So Cloudtoolz is more than just a platform for doing point-to-point integration. It actually manages processes across multiple systems, and it doesn't rely on bespoke code or heavy customizations. So it allows you to create streamlined experiences without building them from scratch, and you don't have to be a coder to use it. And then finally, with AI-ready middleware, you can create process workflows and refine them while reducing your delivery cost. And you can allow it to process complex business functions like renewals and registrations. We are also in the process of creating this concept of MPC servers so that we can allow AIs to connect to your CRM systems securely. And we can restrict the data that AIs can see. So you've got data protection around that. So that's very much a layer that we're now building out for our clients. Okay, so let's bring this all together. Firstly, data silos aren't a technology failure. They're actually a member experience failure. Every time a member has to re-enter their details, receives an email that has nothing to do with them, or speaks to a staff member who can't see their history, that's a silo showing up in your membership relationship. And over time, that friction compounds into disengagement and member churn. How do we fix that? We use a single source of truth. And this is worth repeating. It doesn't mean one giant platform that does everything. It means one version of the truth that everything connects back to. So your AMS is the hub, the right integrations and the right analytics on top of it allow you to see finally what's actually happening with your member. So we're not saying put all your data in your AMS. We're saying put the data that is relevant to the member experience, and the data that is relevant to your staff performing their roles, put that into your single source of truth. I will talk about some of the other ways in which we can deal with maybe some of the less structured data that we might be getting into. So the path to getting there doesn't have to be overwhelming. You don't need a 6-figure project and 18 months of implementation. Start with an audit of what you have, identify your biggest point of friction, fix that one thing first. The associations we work with who've made the most progress haven't done it all at once. They started somewhere, saw the difference it made, and then built from there. Okay, so it's really do it incrementally. All right, before we jump into questions, I just want to spend a little bit of time looking ahead and looking at the future, because we all know what's coming down the pipe in terms of AI, and AI's in particular is going to cause us some challenges. So I think most of you will have heard of something called vibe coding. Vibe coding means that AI has turned all of us into coders. All of us can now write an app. Hey, that's quite terrifying when you think about that from a data silos perspective, because where is all the data going to end up if everybody's writing apps? What we can expect with the proliferation of AI coding is that you're going to have staff members coming to you more and more saying, I've got this cool new app that does this. I've just built this thing in Claude that does this. I've just built this thing in ChatGPT that sends my data to who knows where. You're going to get that more and more. And you keep having to ask the same questions. Where is the data ending up? How is it going to integrate back to my AMS? What is the impact on member experience of what you're using? You've got to go back to those same questions with every new tool. The reality with data is that you've got different types of data that can now be accumulated from these apps. The one is structured data. An AMS system is normally built on some kind of SQL server. SQL is what we call a relational database. So data relates to other data. We call this transactional data. A member has made these financial transactions, or has renewed on these dates, or has registered for these events, or has bought these products, or has joined these committees. These are all what we can say transactional structured data, where there's a relationship between the contact and the event registration and the event, and it's a structured way of looking at data. That data should absolutely be pushed into your AMS wherever possible. However, there are other types of data which might be much less structured. For example, analytics, Google Analytics data, or there are some other analytics tools that allow you to work out through your member portal what pages members are visiting. So this type of data is very unstructured. It might say this person visited on this date and with this device and this screen size, and it may change from time to time what we're analyzing, and it tends to be vast sums of data. You've got mobile data also. If you've got a mobile app in your organization, the data that you can glean off the mobile app, if you look at what Facebook and Meta is taking from you in terms of your behavioral analytics, it has these vast databases of unstructured data. So with those types of data, it's not really applicable to put them in your AMS. However, it is applicable for AIs to be able to use that data. And for unstructured data, there are other types of databases, like something called MongoDB is what we actually have, an unstructured database in Cloudtoolz. That's where we store our unstructured data so that AI can analyze it, crunch it, perhaps put it into a structured format, and then post the summary back into your AMS. So that's the way to deal with unstructured data, is to really crunch that data and put summary data into your AMS where applicable, because behavioral analytics can give you an indication of engagement. But if you've got vast quantities of unstructured data in your AMS, you're probably going to blow your AMS up. Your performance is going to suffer. It's not the right place to put it in your AMS, but certainly summary data can go back into your AMS. And then bringing all that data together particularly for AI purposes. People very much talk about data lakes. So data lakes are where you have a large data repository where you can store information from multiple systems so that you can do two things. One is you can put AI on it, and the other one is you can run reporting and analytics on it. So there are systems like, I would say, look at Microsoft's Canvas system is good for that. There's another one called Snowflake that we see a number of associations with large unstructured data sets adopting. So those are two that you can look at where you can combine AMS data with unstructured data so that you can then analyze it in one place. But the key thing here is to think about data protection. The key thing is to think about the right of your members to be forgotten. So if they want their data deleted, how are you going to easily delete that data? How many different places do you have to delete the data from? Where is the data being held? I gave the Claude example of data being processed in the US. So where, not just where is the data being held, but where is the data being processed? And do you have data processing agreements in place with those people that are processing that data? So these are some of the challenges that we're going to be faced with more and more in the world of AI. And I think the key thing is always just to go back to those questions that we posed earlier. Where's the data being held? Where's the data being processed? How do we integrate it? How do we bring the key relevant data back into our AMS to give good member and staff experiences? Okay, it's probably enough speaking from our side for today. I wanted to just throw this open to questions from the audience. If you have a question, please throw something into the chat. If you have any comments, if you'd like to challenge anything that we've said or perhaps misstated or not stated clearly enough, yeah, please go ahead and ask a question in the chat. Andrew, is there anything else, just before we go on to questions, is there anything else that you want to add to what we said so far?
No, I think it's been really good so far.
Yeah, I really like the AI bit that you explained, Jyoti. I have been to lots of conferences this year, and really there are lots of talks about AI, and I feel like it's actually a good thing or a bad thing. So I think we're gonna wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the single source of truth concept is, it's a cultural concept that you have to bake into your organization's culture, because if you don't, it happens so quickly. You turn around and suddenly someone's using a spreadsheet is the most common way we create data silos, because everyone can use a spreadsheet, right? But with AI, it's going to be, well, I've created this with my AI, I've created this with ChatGPT, and suddenly you're going to turn around and your data is fragmented all over the show.
Yeah.
So it's a constant cultural thing. I would recommend we'll share these slides with everybody after the fact, so you've got them. But I would say that bake it into your onboarding process for new staff.
Yeah.
So it just becomes part of what you do and how you operate as an organization, because the costs to you, if you don't, are, yeah, it's not good in terms of member retention. So Kevin is saying, any thoughts on an approach to dealing with HubSpot and any pitfalls specific to that application appreciated, as we are now essentially duplicating our data between the systems, which was never desirable. So HubSpot is a very interesting one, because HubSpot, it's essentially started as an email marketing system. They've bolted a CRM system onto that, and I use their CRM. One of our partners, our AMS partners, uses HubSpot, and they use the CRM there. as far as a membership CRM, it's exceptionally poor. It's not a bad sales and marketing CRM, but as we talked about with commercial CRMs, it's poor. So if you start having information in HubSpot as a CRM system, and you've got data in an AMS system, these two are going to start conflicting with each other. So I would say the first thing is to identify which is the master. Your AMS, from an association perspective, bread and butter is membership retention, membership recruitment. So the member record has to take precedence. Therefore, your AMS should be the master in terms of the member record. And then you'll need to integrate with HubSpot and pull everything from HubSpot. You can pull it back over. Cloudtoolz has an integration with HubSpot that you can pull that data over. If you're using the HubSpot CRM, I would say look at only the relevant data that you need to bring into the CRM to improve your member experience and your staff experience. And yeah, Jen saying that they've got, apart from HubSpot, they've also got a third layer and a data warehouse too. So what we're seeing with data warehousing from that perspective is that very often the data warehouse is a read-only version of all your data for analytics purposes only. When data is getting updated, rather than updating it into the data warehouse, update the data into your AMS or your other systems, and then have the data warehouse synchronize with that on a regular schedule as a read-only thing. So don't allow updates into the data warehouse. Only allow updates into your single source of truth, which is your member record, your master member record in your AMS. Andrew, do you want to add anything to that? Yeah.
Yeah, try and train your staff to, like with HubSpot, to do the same thing. Rather than going into HubSpot and updating someone's communication preference, go back to your AMS and update it there and let the sync handle it. So always go back to your source of truth and make sure that's the place you update your information. Otherwise, you're going to get data out of sync.
Yeah. And particularly with email marketing, because all email marketings have their unsubscribes and their email marketing preferences. I always recommend to do those preferences in your AMS, in the member portal, because from the member perspective, you've got to make it as easy as possible for them to go to one place to manage all their preferences. So if they know where to go, you can do it from your AMS and then synchronize that and push that sync back to your email marketing system. So you make your master for preferences the AMS, and from that perspective, the member offering that you're providing is very clear to your members. Oh, they go into the member portal, they can see the entire member offering, they can do everything from the member portal, and so it makes your organization more valuable rather than them clicking on something and going to HubSpot and managing their preferences in HubSpot, and now the perception is that HubSpot is valuable rather than your organization. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone have any other questions, comments? If not, we'll maybe just move on to a quick wrap up. Ray, do you want to go ahead and wrap up here?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, everybody. And just to bring everything together, I'll just leave you with these questions, right? Are you actually getting ROI from your tech investments? Or do your systems talk to each other to deliver a personalized membership experience or not? Do your systems bring new members? Or is it one of the reasons why they leave because your members do not see a clear value of their membership with you? So those are the questions I want you to think about after this webinar. And by the way, as well, you will get an automated email with the recording of the webinar. We will also be adding this to our YouTube channel. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues or someone in the industry that you think might find it helpful, actually. We've put together here a short assessment. You just need to scan the QR code that you can see on the screen, and you'll get a clear picture of your current maturity level and where to focus next. If you would like to hear more, please get in touch, and I'll be more than happy, or a member of the team will reach out to book a short call with you where you can discuss your current setup and challenges. We thank you very much for your time, everybody, and I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.